I have a newborn named Isla who's incredible. She's amazing. And, she's only a couple months old. And I'm thinking, we talk about arrhythmia, how everybody is going to eventually have a dissociative split. I'm looking at this newborn. I'm like, how is this little perfect little baby going to have a dissociative split? How's that going to happen? Right. And it doesn't have to be through horrific trauma. It doesn't have to be through something that was brutal or an abandonment or anything like that. A lot of us have those issues from our childhood where we were abandoned, abused, neglected, that kind of stuff. Between the ages of 2 and 7 years old is when most of this sort of dissociative split happens. But what happens to those of us that didn't have like an abandonment or an abuse or anything that was kind of rough, that we would categorize as adults, that was like something that would warrant a dissociative split? Well, for those of us, like, for example, I would like to think that Isla isn't going to have any of those things happen to create her split, because she has loving parents and we're attentive and we're there. However, a child's mind interprets things differently than an adult's mind, right? And between the ages of 2 and 7, our realities are in a different way than they would be if we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, right? So, what happens if a kid goes to school for the first time and feels abandoned? Well, that going to school for a lot of people is a normal activity. It's not abusive necessarily, right? Depending on the school. And it's not something that is intentionally done to hurt. So could going to school in a way that if the kid is really attached to their parents or to their home and it scares them and they're crying and they're upset for a couple of days, is that something that could cause a split? Yeah, it could. In some kids it could. Like my daughter Scarlett, who's now 6, she really, really, really didn't want to go to school. She would cry every single day. And that was what caused her split, I believe. Now she's only how old right now? She's 6. So um, I guess we'll have to see. But what I'm getting at is that every single person in life will go through a split, and that split is what creates the issues that we deal with in our life because they snowball. So, for example, like I grew up in an area in Los Angeles where I had to kind of be really tough outside of my home. I had to be on my A game. I had to be alert. I had to be hyper vigilant, and that created a certain persona in me that I carried into my life outside of my neighborhood and outside of my area where I grew up. And I was using that sort of persona, this hyper vigilant, super aware, sometimes aggressive, and sort of intimidating vibe that I had to use as a kid in Los Angeles. I was using that in in therapy with my clients. I was using it in my management style with my staff. I was using it with my friends and family. And it was just like me, and I didn't really understand that it was created from a dissociative experience that I had when I was a kid, out of survival and out of how do I unplug from my true self, because my true self is vulnerable, and how do I show the world something that's maybe not, it's not authentically me, but it's this other sort of identity I've taken on to survive or to avoid pain or avoid fear and to kind of get by. So when we talk about a dissociative split in psychology and psychiatry and healthcare and sociology, even anthropology too, all the social sciences talk about this. What happens is that you start to live in a way that's not authentic, and that builds momentum over time, and eventually you get to a place where you're overwhelmed and you're not even sure who you are anymore. And that's what the program at Rhythmia is focused on. It's focused on getting you back to your true core self, connecting back again to who you really are, and moving forward in a way that's really helpful and authentic. And that process for a lot of people can be scary because you think, well, there's all this unresolved emotional pain, there's all this unresolved stuff. I haven't really dealt with it before since I was a kid, and now I'm in my 40s, and I don't really want to look at all this stuff and feel it. It's understandable because it's a lot. But your consciousness, your sort of personality will be able to handle whatever it is that you've held inside of your amygdala and in your, which is your subconscious part of the brain. You can handle it, and it's released during our program. And our program has all these different healthy modalities to help you do this. We have a cleanse process, we have a healthy food, we have meditation, yoga, we have the plant medicine, we have breath work, we have all these different modalities. We have a really safe environment, all these great places for you in moments during the week for you to allow this process to happen, this release. Some people say, like, I've just been crying for the last couple hours. I don't really know why. It's like, well, that's a release. That's you getting out. And somebody's like, well, I've just been laughing and sort of giddy. And like, that's a release too. Like there's all this sort of purging, as we call it, where you're letting an emotion out through a physical symptom. And, the plant medicine is really good at this too. And that's what allows 4 nights a week for this process to happen. So that is a big reason why, coming to Rythmia is an important thing. It's not like just going off into the jungle and drinking ayahuasca. That's not what this is. This is a program that helps you connect with yourself, focus on who you really are, and move forward in life with empowerment, sovereignty, and independence of thought. It's really, really key. So thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you guys next week. I'll be back in Costa Rica. Pura vida. It's raining like crazy here in LA. Hope you guys are dry. Talk to you later. Have a good one.